ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि Om. So we were seeing the refutation of the objection of Purva Paksha by Shankaracharya. The objection is that since this Karma Kanda precedes Jnana Kanda, or since the Dharma portion precedes the Brahma Jigyasa portion, so shouldn't one first know rituals before having the desire to know Brahman? That was the objection. And for that, Shankaracharya first gave Nirakarana Bhashya, that is, he tried to quash that objection by saying that Dharma Jigyasa Pragapi Adita Vedantasya Brahma Jigyasa Upavattehe. That it's quite logical that even before one gets the desire to know Dharma or the rituals, one might also get the desire to know Brahman. Why? Because they have to study the same Vedas. It is the same text they are studying. Same text means Vedas contain both knowledge portion and karma portion. So if they are studying the text of Vedas, they might get, instead of the desire to know rituals, they might as well get the desire to know Brahman. So it's quite logical. Then he says that, you see, you could say this, that it is not possible if there was an order prescribed. For example, in daily day-to-day activity, we see that unless you light a stove, you cannot cook anything. So you cannot say that you can cook something even before you light the stove. So cooking requires that the stove is lighted. And he gives the example of the sacrifice of an animal in a Vedic sacrifice, where some limbs have to be cut first. So the heart, etc., have to be cut first. So that is the order. So he says that the order of succession has been given in the case of the sacrifice of animals, but it has not been given in the case of the desire to know rituals or the desire to know Brahman. So one cannot say that you can have the desire to know Brahman only after you have known rituals. That cannot be the case. So even if you don't know the rituals, you can know Brahman, or you may have the desire to know Brahman, because in Vedas nowhere it is told that this is a precondition or this should precede the knowledge of Brahman or the desire to know Brahman. And then further he says, Shesha Sheshitve Adhikrita Adhikare Va Pramana Abhavat Dharma Brahma Jigyasayoho. So you see that we have Pramana Abhavat. Pramana here means scriptural sanction, Vidhi or Nisheda. Vidhi means something which is injunctory. The Vedas ask you to do something. That is Vidhi. And Nisheda is that Vedas prohibit you from doing something. So injunction, prohibition, neither of these things are present here. Pramana abhava. So there is an absence of spiritual authority, scriptural authority. There is an absence of scriptural authority in this case. In what case? Dharma Brahma Jigyasayoho. Between the desire to know Dharma and the desire to know Brahman, there is a lack of scriptural authority. That means There is no scriptural authority which is saying that you have to prefer one over the other. Or there is no scriptural authority which is saying that one has to precede the other. So no scriptural authority is saying that you should have the desire to know ritual before you have the desire to know Brahman. Similarly, no scriptural authority is saying that it is better to know Brahman than to know ritual, etc. Then he says, Shesha Sheshitve. So, if suppose somebody is saying that there is a Shesha and Sheshi, that means principal and subsidiary. So, Sheshi, subsidiary. Something is dependent on something else. So, something is principal and something is subsidiary. Here, we don't have anything like that. In some Vedic sacrifices, one sacrifice is dependent on the other sacrifice. So till the other sacrifice, that is the subsidiary sacrifice, is not performed, or the auxiliary sacrifice is not performed, you cannot complete the main sacrifice, like that. So Sesha, Sheshi, like that. Here there is no relationship. Here is no relationship of Shesha and Sheshi, means principal and subsidiary. Similarly, there is no relationship of Adhikrita, Adhikare. There is no relationship of a person being eligible who is already having the eligibility of the already eligible. Adhikrita. So, Adhikrita means one who is eligible. So, one who is eligible, you cannot ask that person to get a further eligibility. So here a person becomes eligible for studying the Vedas. Now the person becomes eligible for studying the Vedas. Now you cannot ask that person to be more eligible for the knowledge of Brahman. Even for the knowledge of Dharma, one person has to have some kind of eligibility. So here the scriptures don't say that, you see, he needs to have, this person needs to have further eligibility. That is not told in the scriptures. So already a person is eligible to study the Vedas. That person doesn't need further eligibility to have the desire of Brahman. This is the idea. So you see, here the example is given of a Vedic sacrifice, Vedic ritual. So if somebody wants to get heaven, there is a Vedic ritual for that. But if somebody wants to get additional benefit, okay, after death I want to go to heaven, but before death, even in this very life, I want cattle, I want lot of cattle. So that person has to do something extra to attain that cattle. So there is some change of vessel, there is some change of some kind of ritual, etc. So this extra eligibility, so that is the point. See, this person was eligible already to attain to heaven after death, but this extra that person is doing will enable that person to get cattle in this very life. So similarly here, there is no scriptural authority or scriptural statement which is asking the person to do something extra to realize Brahman or to know, have the desire of Brahman. Then Shankaracharya says, Phala jigyasya vedacha. Now you see here again, Phala jigyasya vedat cha. So there is also a difference between phala, the result, and jigyasya means that which you want to know. That which you want to know. Jigyasa is the desire to know. Jnatum ichcha jigyasa. That which you want to know is jigyasya. So here there is a difference between the result and the desire, what the object of your desire to know. How is the difference? Because dharma jigyasa will give you the knowledge of rituals, whereas Brahma Jigyasa will give you the knowledge of Brahman. So Dharma Jigyasa will give you the knowledge of rituals, and Brahma Jigyasa will give you the knowledge of Brahman. So there is automatically the result will be different and the object will be different. Object of what has to be known is different. So this is very important. You see, a person wants to say go to some place. A person wants to go to some place and a person wants to sleep. So I cannot say that unless you sleep, you cannot go to the place, or unless you go to that particular place, you cannot sleep, because these two are totally different. The person who wants to sleep does not want to engage in any movement, and the person who wants to go wants to engage in a movement. So they're totally different. Similarly, a person who wants to know the reason, the rituals, wants to acquire something, wants to get something. He wants or she wants to have something in this life or hereafter. Whereas the person who wants to know Brahman wants to go beyond all these things. So there is a difference between the result and the difference between what is asked for. A person who wants to know rituals wants to know what are the materials which will be used for performing Vedic rituals, and also what are the different types of Vedic rituals that exist. Whereas a person who wants to know Brahman wants to know that which is beyond all form, beyond all name, and beyond all matter. So it is completely different. In fact, they are quite opposite to one another. So, how can you say that unless a person knows the Vedic rituals, one person cannot have the desire to know Brahman? Because the results are so opposite. So opposite. How can you say? On the contrary, if somebody would have said that unless one knows Sanskrit, or unless one has got a able mind and body, one will not be able to understand the rituals, that makes sense. Why? Because rituals are in this language, and to perform the rituals you need to have able mind and body. But if a person is saying that no, you should know the rituals before you try to know Brahman, it is so different. Just like asking a person who wants to sleep that you should have a train ticket in your pocket before you go to sleep. But I want to sleep. No, 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 you should have a train ticket in your pocket. But I don't want to travel. Or asking the person who wants to travel that no, you should first make your bed and then you should ensure that you get a good sleep, then travel. So I don't want to sleep, I want to travel. So this is totally at loggerheads, totally opposite. Abhyuda phalam dharma jnanam tatcha anushtana apeksham. So here Shankaracharya is explaining it. He is saying abhyudaya phalam. You see, abhyudaya phalam, result of prosperity. Abhyudaya means prosperity. Result of prosperity. Dharma jnanam tat cha anushtana apeksham. So the result of prosperity depends on the knowledge of dharma and its performance. and its performance. That means dharma jigyasa, if you know dharma, rituals, and if you perform them, what is expected of that? What is apekshita? What is expected or what comes out of that? Abhyudaya. Prosperity comes out of that. Prosperity comes out of that. Prosperity means what? In this life and after this life, you will have no problem. In this life also you will have air conditioner. Afterwards, when you die also, wherever you go, there will be air conditioner. Here also you will have so much to eat, drink and TV, etc. will be there. Afterwards also, wherever you go, there will be apsaras will come and live telecast will be there. So instead of you are seeing in TV, you can directly see. So that is abhyudaya, iha para sukha. You will have happiness both here and hereafter. So that is what is going to happen. If you get the knowledge of rituals and if you perform them correctly, you are going to get this. But nishreyasa phalam tu brahmajnanam nacha anusthana antara apeksham. Anusthana antara apeksham. See, but nishreyasa phalam tu brahmajnanam. The knowledge of Brahman, which is what we are concerned about here, which is what we are concerned with here, knowledge of Brahman, Brahma jigyasa, athato Brahma jigyasa. We are not saying Dharma jigyasa. And Shankaracharya is saying, my dear opponent, Purva Paksha, this knowledge of Brahman will give me what? Nishreyasa phalam. The result of this knowledge of Brahman is Nishreyasa, means Punarapi maranam, punarapi jananam, punarapi janani, jathare shayanam. So this sansara, this repeated birth and death, this cycle of transmigration is going to be cut off. I'm going to be mukta. I'm going to get liberation. No more suffering. No more suffering. So that is the result of Brahmajnana. Brahmajnana's result is moksha, nishreyasa, no more suffering, complete cessation of suffering, complete cessation of repeated life and death. And this is not dependent on any other performance, any anusthana. Anusthana antaram na apeksham. It is not dependent on any other observance or anusthana. If you get knowledge of Brahman, that's all. You don't need anything. So no apsara is necessary, no AC is necessary, no somarasa is necessary. You are in bliss. But that is not the result of dharma. Dharma result is abhyudaya. So the result itself is so different. Bhavyah cha dharmah jigyasyah jnana kale na asti. Bhavyah dharmah jigyasyah jnana kale na asti. Also, the bhavyah, that which is going to come in the future, that which is going to come in the future, that does not exist at the time of knowledge. So, dharma jigyasyah, the object of desire of dharma. Suppose somebody wants to go to heaven and that person desires this, and that is the object of dharma, that is ritual, that I want to go to heaven. But at the time of knowledge of the ritual, at the time of the knowledge of the ritual, one does not get heaven. At the time of the knowledge of the ritual, one does not get heaven. Similarly, if somebody wants cattle and that person knows the ritual performing which that person will get cattle, but on the knowledge of the ritual, one does not get cattle. Why? Unless one performs that ritual, one will not get cattle. Unless one performs the ritual, one will not go to Swarga. So of course they have to perform and also die also. That is also necessary to go to Swarga. If you don't die, how will you go to Swarga? So that is dependent on some activity of that person. That is dependent on some activity of the person. So the knowledge, the object of desire of dharma, dharma jigyasya, the object of desire of dharma, that which is not yet come into existence, means something which will come into existence in future, bhavya, that does not exist at that time of knowledge. Jnana kale na asti. It does not exist at that time of knowledge. Why? Purusha vyapara tantratvat. Because it depends on the activity of the person. Purusha vyapara tantra. If you want to cook biryani, unless you cook it, it will not come into existence. Or it may come into existence in some hotel, but there also somebody has cooked it. So that is called Purusha Vyapara Tantra. Means it is dependent on the Vyapara activity of a person, Purusha. So Purusha Vyapara Tantra. It is dependent on the activity of a person. Purusha Vyapara Tantra. So this is the difference between Dharma Jigyasya and Brahma Jigyasya. The object of desire of Dharma, the object of desire of Dharma is not existing at the time of the knowledge of Dharma. It is not existing. It will come only when the person acts upon that knowledge. So I know how to perform some yajna and I have to do that yajna and then I will get the knowledge. I will get the object. Ihatu bhutam brahma jigyasyam nityavrittatvat na purusha vyapara tantram. But in this case, ihatu, in this present context, here, we are talking about, it is Brahma Sutra, it is not Dharma Sutra, it is not Mimamsa Sutras, it is Vedanta Sutras. So here we are concerned with Brahman, the desire to know Brahman, Brahma Jigyasa, not Dharma Jigyasa. So here, even at the time of the desire to know, Jigyasyam, even at the time of the desire to know, Bhutam Brahma, Brahma exists. You see, it is not like Dharma Jigyasa. When you want to have cattle, it does not exist. And you want to have cattle, you have the knowledge of the ritual which will produce cattle. Even then it does not exist. Only when you perform the ritual, you will get cattle. But here it is not like that. Even if you don't have the desire to know Brahman, Brahman is always there. You might not have the desire to know Brahman, but Brahman is existing every time. Brahman is not depending on somebody's desire to know it. And also, even after your knowledge, Brahman is not coming from somewhere. It is there. Whereas there, even if you know the Dharma, that object will not come into existence. Only when you perform, it will come. So here, it is existing all the time. And Nitya Vrittatvat, because it is always Nitya Vritta, means existing. It is always existing. Brahman is existing all the time. There is no time for Brahman. So na Purusha Vyapara Tantram, because it is not Tantra dependent on Purusha, person's Vyapara activity. So you see, how can you say, that is the question, how can you say that ritual knowledge is necessary for the desire to know ritual is necessary for having the desire to know Brahman? Because it is so very dissimilar, so disconnected. So this is absurd. That is the implication of what Shankaracharya says. It is so absurd. It does not make any sense. So you cannot say like that, because what you know by dharma knowledge, that has to come into existence only after you perform based on that knowledge. Whereas what you want to know by the desire to know Brahman is always existing, and nothing is going to come into existence. And even if you have that, even if you get the knowledge, it is not going to come into existence for you. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.